So here was my problem. It was sine of x minus 1 over 3x times cosine of 4x squared over 3 plus x added to 3x to the cube times x squared. So let's dissect this problem. There's a sine, there's a chain, and within that there's a quotient. You get multiplied by that, which is going to be a product, times another chain, cosine, and within that is another quotient, 4x squared plus, 4x squared divided by 3 plus x. And then you got here just 3x to the cube times x to the square, which is just its own product. And I got my rules over here. Okay, so I decided to do this part of the problem, excluding this as in its own thing. So this page is going to be dedicated to that part. Yep, sine x minus 1 over 3x times cosine of 4x squared over 3 plus x. So to get that, we're going to have to do the product rule. F prime of x times g of x plus f of x g prime of x. F of x, so this is going to be fx, this is going to be g of x. Fx is, sine x minus 1 over 3x, and g of x is cosine 4x squared over 3 plus x. Now, you got to find the prime of fx, which is going to be the chain rule. It's not that simple, though. So, as you guys know, the chain rule, a bx prime, a prime of b of x, b prime of x. So a of x is, in this case, sine. It's what's the output is. B of x is the input, x minus 1 over 3x. Now a prime of x, the derivative of sine is cosine. And for b prime of x, we gotta find, look at this. This is a quotient, so we gotta do the quotient rule. And that is its own thing. So we got the top one, f of x, x minus 1, and the bottom one, 3x, g of x. The quotient rule is g of x, f prime of x, minus f of x, g prime of x, over gx squared. So g of x is just 3x. F prime of x is x minus 1. If you do the subtraction rule, it's just going to be 1, or the difference rule, some people call it. You subtract that by f of x, which we know as x minus 1. G prime of x, which is just going to be 3 if you use the power rule, because it's 3x to the 1. You multiply the 1 by that 3, and then which is just 3, and that's going to be 0. And then x to the 0 is 3 times 1, and it's just going to be 3. And you divide that by gx squared, which is 3x squared. Okay, and I simplify it a little bit. 3x times 1 is just 3x. So b prime of x is 3x minus x minus 1 times 3 over 3x squared, all over 3x squared. So now we got b prime of x. Now let's follow the chain rule that we did earlier. So we got a prime of b of x. A prime is cosine, the output, and the input will be b of x. So it's going to be cosine x minus 1 over 3x. And then we're going to multiply that by b prime of x, which we just found. This behemoth we got there using the quotient rule. That is 3x minus x minus 1 times 3 over all over 3x squared. So we got, so that's the first part. That's this. That's the derivative of this. This part right here. And now we gotta do this part. Basically the same type of rules. We gotta follow the steps. So again, g of x is cosine of 4x squared over 3 plus x. G prime x, we're gonna have to use the chain rule. A of x, the output cosine of x. B of x, the thing that's going into it, is 4x squared over 3 plus x. The derivative of cosine, a prime of x, is going to be negative sine, and b prime x, same thing. We got to do the quotient rule, 4x squared over 3 plus x. The top is fx, bottom is g of x. Let's go into work. you guys know the quotient rule I just explained earlier. G of x is 3 plus x. Then you got to do the f prime, 4x squared. Take the square, times it by the 4. 4 times 2. And then you can have the 2 is going to become a 1. So it's 8x minus f of x, 4x squared, times g prime of x, 3 plus x, is just 1 because of the addition rule. And you divide that by g of x squared, 3 plus x squared. Now we gotta follow the chain rule steps like we did for f of x, and that is take the a prime and put b of x into it, a prime negative sign, and then input is 4x squared over 3 plus x. And then we take b prime x, the quotient rule we just got here. We got 3 plus x, 8x minus 4x squared over 3 plus x squared. And that is g prime of x. That's the derivative of that. So now I got all this laid out here. This f of x, f prime of x, g of x, g prime of x. Now we're gonna go, remember how I just did this? Now we have to find this, which is a regular product rule. Whew. Where did I do it? I did it over here. Okay. 3x cubed times x squared. F of x, g of x. Now we took the 3 out because the constant rule, I believe. We just x cubed minus x squared, but we'll multiply 3 afterwards. So f prime of x is gonna we put as x cubed and g of x, x squared. F prime of x, 3x squared, then g of x, x squared, you guys know the product rule, plus f of x, x cubed times 2 of x. Then this is all is going to equal to 3x to the 4 times plus 2x to the 4, which is like terms, so you can just add them up. 5x to the 4, then the 3 we got rid of earlier. Let's multiply that. It's going to be 15x to the 4th. Now we got all of it. I put it over here, product rule. Now remember, this is all the stuff we got here. You gotta do the product rule with it, which we all lined up. F prime of x, g of x plus f of x, g prime of x. F prime of x was this. We did it. We did g of x 2, which is right there, plus sine x minus 1 over 3x, then g prime of x. And this is our whole thing. We added 15x to the 4th because original we were adding it. So here is all of it. It is the whole thing. This is the answer. F prime of x equals cosine x minus 1 over 3x times 3x minus x minus 1 times 3 over all over 3x squared, times that by cosine 4x squared over 3 plus x. Again, we're using our product rule for this. Plus sine of x minus 1 over 3x times negative sine of 4x squared 3 plus x times 3 plus x, 8x minus 4x squared over 3 plus x squared, all over 3 plus x squared. And then we just did it, the next part, plus 15x to the 4th. And that is the answer. I apologize if I made any mistakes, but that is it. Bye.